Hello, I'm Suzanne Lyons, and welcome to my video on goal setting. This is part 2 of a 3-part series. In part 1, I talked about the 7 steps to goal setting. I started with creating the big picture, way out in the future, 25 years out in the future, and then moving back in time to your 5-year vision. I then looked at creating the clear, specific 1-year goal. And from there, it was all about designing your timeline and breaking it down into milestones. And I talked about creating the actions that would be necessary to accomplish them. From there, I focused on the statistics sheet and the importance of tracking your actions. And finally, accountability, having someone that would hold you accountable to your promises and commitments. Today, in part 2, I'll be speaking with some brilliant people from the entertainment industry who have set goals, achieved those goals, and are here to share their advice with us today. So let's get started. In fact, let's start with the big picture and find out if our guests have ever used this exercise, and if so, how has it impacted their career?
So that 25 to 30 year big picture exercise has always been something that I've delighted in doing. It's been one of those things where I get to fantasize and dream and have that experience of really knowing and understanding what the possibility of my future could be, and that delicious, yummy experience and juicy experiences has always been just the best. I had started my career as a writer just thinking, well, you know, if I can get a job here and I get a job there, then it's really going to work out for me. Whereas when I got the opportunity to really stand back and look at my career and say, this is what I would like to accomplish over the next 25 years, I think it put me more firmly in the driver's seat of my own, steering the car of my own destiny. I think that it was very much like that for me.
It's kind of like, as Stephen Covey would say, like I can quote all these people that I've referenced, that if a plane is flying from New York to LA, it knows where it's going. 90% of the time it's off course. It has to keep adapting to get there. But if you don't know where you're going, if you don't have a picture of it, then how do you adapt? You flounder. So it's pivotal.
You know, being in a chalet somewhere where I'm getting word that I've been nominated for some huge award. You know, the kinds of things in my surrounding, the kind of life that I want. And then that gives me an idea of, well, if that really is the life I want, then let's take a look and see how I can get there and how I can bring that to fruition.
Creating a 5-year vision is something else that can be very powerful.
Consequently, creating, looking out, seeing where you want to be in 5 years, and planning for those steps in advance is the best way to actually build a pathway for yourself, as opposed to, being blown around from project to project, just sort of freelancing and hoping for the best.
5 years is kind of a perfect place to put everything into an organization where you can look at it and say, you know what, I can actually dream about some things that I can really accomplish in 5 years, and then I'll start looking about how to approach that.
What it does is I think it makes the bigger picture more obtainable, and what it does is it breaks it down into, like, where would I like to be in 5 years?
If I can see where I want to be in 5 years, whether it's a different job, different company, a promotion, or a completely different type of work, then I can again look back and say, all right, well, what am I doing now that will further that kind of life?
In part 1, I talked about creating a 1-year goal, something that has a specific focus, is spoken clearly, and has a specific measurable result. I talked to our guests about creating that 1-year goal and how that made a difference for them.
One of the aspects of acting is you can't control the auditions that you get. You can't control the callbacks you get. But you can control how many calls you make. You can control the marketing materials you create. You can control all the actions that you can take. And by the result of those actions, you set your one-year goal based upon that. And then once you reach that point in that 1 year, then you can start all over again. And as long as it's in line with your 5-year plan, you do it in the stages that allows you to step and then step and then step again.
Well, the one thing I think about having a one-year goal is that it really does change my day-to-day, because I have something that I can point to and say, well, this time next year, X will be true.
For me, I'm a director, so I'm looking at, okay, I want to be hired on a show, and depending on where I'm at in the year, so sometimes that becomes a one-year goal, because I know a year from now is really when they're going to be doing the hiring, so I'll break it down from there.
What about creating a timeline? Better yet, a timeline that is broken down into milestones, the major pieces that need to be accomplished by specific dates in order that you accomplish those goals. Our industry professionals share their thoughts on timelines and milestones.
I know that when I was starting now casting, I had to set milestones in my first year because we had limited financing and we had to hit these marks and then this mark and then this mark. And by breaking that down into things that were quantifiable, I could know whether I was on track to meet my destination, running behind schedule, and then I could adjust accordingly.
Well, it brings it into physical reality. You have this like fantastic idea, this is what I want to create, but it's a fantasy until you start to create a plan and you have specific steps and milestones so that you know that you're on track, so that you know what to do, and it may change a little.
You know, by December 15th, I will have met 10 executive producers. You know, by December 15th, I will have completed my script and be ready to send it out. By December 15th, I will have booked a TV show. So I get really specific. I pick the date.
Maintaining tight timelines is a part of the one-year goal. You know what I mean? When you make your one-year goal, you say, you know, I have 3 months for this phase of the project, I have 2 months for that phase of the project, I have, you know, 4 months for that phase of the project. And so you start to break it into timelines. For me, it's, in a way, making the one-year goal and making the timeline organization is really the same thing.
Now, let's take a look at your action plan. Creating a list of actions that need to be taken daily or weekly to help you reach those milestones.
So I'll take my 3-month goal. Let's just say it's meet 10 executive producers. Then I've already come up with, okay, it takes 50 phone calls to get there. So then I try and figure out per week how many phone calls do I have to make, and so I will make a chart for the 3 months.
So you can create momentum and create it, generating it out of breaking it down into small specific tasks. And then what seems like an overwhelming or elusive goal suddenly becomes right there in the palm of your hand.
It absolutely is the only way to do these big projects. I mean, people want to do big things. They want to make major motion pictures. They want to write books. They want to create works of art. And, you know, it's too big for you unless you break it down into palatable pieces and do a little bit every day.
Just like the milestones that we talked about earlier, this gives you, am I on track? Do I have to work harder? What do I have to do to be able to hit my goals? So it's very important to have all those pieces in place in order for you to be successful and make what you want to have happen.
I find that keeping statistics are helpful, tracking those areas we want to track. Like for me, the number of phone calls that I've made, the number of pages I've written in my book, for example. You know, for me, it really helps me know that I'm moving forward. Let's see what our guests have to say about that.
Anything that you're going to do that's an actionable item is worth doing for a long period of time. Thus the reason you need the one-year goal, thus you need the milestones, because it gives you impetus to keep doing what you're doing. And by tracking it, you can then start creating a ratio that you can really then start fine-tuning in.
As you're going along with your goals, it tells you how you're doing, so you can check in before the end, before your 3-month goal is over, you can check in on a weekly basis. Well, how am I doing? Am I actually meeting these goals? I set a goal of 10 phone calls a week. I'm making 5 a week for the last 3 weeks. Well, okay, I've got to attack that. I realize I got to step it up.
The way that I use it with my agent is, like for instance, last year I had oodles and oodles of auditions and I had a 90% callback ratio. So I can use that with them when I talk to them, and I can say, hey, and I remind them, and I remind myself, if I get, so it's like pivotal.
Finally, holding yourself accountable, having a team or a partner that you can report to or meet with helps you stay focused and will certainly help you achieve those goals.
Well, I find being held accountable is very useful for me, especially when I'm working outside the comfort zone. If I'm on a script deadline, for example, when I wrote CSI Miami, I wrote it in 3 days. Because of production reasons, I checked in with someone on a daily basis to say, this is my page count, this is what I've accomplished, and this is what I need to do by tomorrow. So I was completely outside my comfort zone, and to be able to check in with somebody and talk to them about that was very useful.
I do believe that it's important to keep your focus, and I think that if being accountable to someone else really helps. If you work with a partner, that's great. If you're doing a scene with a scene partner, that's great.
I have found that accountability groups has so helped me. I've always made a point of getting together with people on a weekly basis, people that are basically peers of mine, that are at the same level, and whether it's writers, directors, actors, composers, but everybody in the film business, and we get together once a week and we go around and we all check in and we just talk about where we're at. And what's so great about it is you get feedback about your goals. Maybe you should try this, maybe you should try that.
Okay, I can do this. It's just a human response, and I've got other humans around me that are willing to see beyond my fears and support me beyond my fears so that I can actually get to those places that I want. And I can't seem to do it all by myself in my own little apartment, as lovely as my apartment is. It's too self-reflective, it's too internalized, and I need some people to help bring me out and support me towards that.
In regard to the overall topic of goal setting, I've asked our guests for their words of wisdom, that final piece of advice in a nutshell.
If you want to step into your dreams, have a goal and be supported in it.
I've got to say that everything I've accomplished in this business over 25 years of directing and writing is by setting goals. Nothing has fallen into my lap. I've always set a goal of what I wanted to accomplish, whether it's to write a script, direct a feature film, break into TV series directing, sell a script. It's always been set the goal and then go after it.
If I were to give a piece of advice regarding goal setting, I would say don't get so focused on your goal that you miss an opportunity that presents itself. You're allowed to take side roads.
With those tangible, measurable goals, you're going to get yourself someplace, as opposed to just being at the whim of the ocean and the currents and the winds and the storms that might come your way. With goals, things are going to get in your way. They're going to keep you from getting to what you want. But as long as you've got those goals, you're going to know, where am I? But if you're adrift with no goals, with no compass, without any idea where you are, with nothing on the horizon that you can see, you'll have no idea where you are. And you'll never be able to achieve anything without them.
If you really want it, try to shoot for it. If you don't meet your goal, set another goal, make it more manageable this time, try it again, Constant adjustment, really. And if you hit your goal too easily, then obviously your next one needs to be a little bit higher. Just expectation management and goal management.
I think for me, goal setting says a couple of different things. It reminds me that life is more than just day-to-day routine, that there's something bigger out there that I am going for. And also, it reminds me that there are other people on that journey too, because if I have a goal, I'm going to be asking for help, I'm going to be talking to people, I'm going to be establishing relationships, and that's the fun part of what this business is for me.
It doesn't matter what age you are. I have an actress friend that's 85 years old, and she's still like, great, when's our series coming? I mean, that's what the artist's life gets to offer us, is that experience of continual wonder, continual surprise, continual excitement over what is going to be next. And that isn't a bad thing. That's what we're honored with by being artists.
I hope you've enjoyed these priceless suggestions as much as I have. I truly want to thank our guests for their gracious and generous contribution to us today and for their advice and experience. So that wraps up Goal Setting Part 2. Now, next time, I'd love you to join me for Goal Setting Part 3, when I'll be dealing with what I think is an extremely important topic for all of us. What do we do when we get stuck? The best laid plans, the best timelines, the best goals, it all goes out the window if we're stuck. So what do we do? How do we get back on track? How do we correct ourselves? How do we keep moving again? How do we move forward? That's what I'm going to be asking our guests next time, is what do they do? What are their words of wisdom? How do we get back on track? How do we move forward? So please, join me next time. It should be a lot of fun. Until then, my name is Suzanne Lyons for Master Talent Teachers. Thanks for watching.